All right, and good evening, everybody. It is Steve with Real Progressives. Folks, Ro Khanna has oftentimes come out and said some pretty brilliant things as it pertains to the economy. Oftentimes, you'll see him bring out some really, really high quality stuff that is absolutely in line with modern monetary theory. You've seen Stephanie Kelton go out there and praise him and clap him on the back and say Ro Khanna seems to have the brightest mind of many of these congressional, individuals out there who represent the power of the purse. And and I've met Ro Khanna. I met him in Washington D.C. when we did the Millions for Medicare March. He and I shared the stage in front of the Capitol, and honestly, met him at other events. He was at the Economists for Peace event in Washington D.C. A year or so ago, where Bernie and Stephanie Kelton spoke, and Jamie Galbraith and others were there. And ultimately, Ro Khanna has reasonably represented an honest understanding of the fact that we need to deficit spend to stay out of recessions, that we need to deficit spend to be able to provide for a Green New Deal, to be able to have the kind of robust economy that can bring in the poor and help everyone, lift all tides. But recently, Ro Khanna had a very, very curious tweet, and this tweet was so bad that I couldn't just stay quiet. I couldn't sit back and stay quiet. Ro Khanna comes out and says Clinton had eliminated the federal deficit before Bush started wars in the Middle East and passed tax cuts for the wealthy. After the disastrous GOP plan and Trump's military budget increases, it's no surprise the federal deficit is at its highest point in 7 years. Now, I want you to understand why this is a big deal. Donald Trump has got so many things that are screwed up and make it really, really easy to take shots at him. The guy is in the process of being impeached right now. It doesn't require economic illiteracy to attack him. Now, why is this a big deal? Well, you've got Hillary Clinton coming out saying that there's no way Medicare for All will ever pass. And you've got other pundits going around trying to water down the idea of Medicare for All. You've got the fighters on the right screaming about the costs of a Green New Deal and how it's going to impact their way of life. And then you've got many Democrats, centrist Democrats, vile little creatures that they are, running around talking about the deficit's been blown up, blown out of proportion. Oh my God, we're all going to die. Well, Ro Khanna actually knows this is bullshit. And to hearken back to Clinton, of all people, the worst of all the neoliberals, in terms of really, really, really depleting the economy out of all reasonable amounts of currency, about any kind of deficit spending, eliminating single moms from welfare, literally trimming out vital programs, reinventing government to look a lot more like a GOP government than a FDR government. But there's Ro Khanna sitting there using some old phantom BS neoliberal attack on the right. And again, you got a president right now that is so weak and so under fire. The idea of drumming up deficit fears is possibly the single most awful thing anybody with a brain that's fighting for a Green New Deal that really meaningfully wants to see progress could ever do. And it's funny because he's not the only one. Stephanie Kelton came in there. Now, these two both serve on Bernie's staff. Interestingly enough, Kelton came in there and let Ro have it. Oh, yeah, the Clinton surpluses were so good for the rest of us. Not. Now, I don't know if you can understand this graph, but let me just tell you point blank. The graph that Kelton has up there is the sectoral balances. And it shows how when Clinton reduced the deficit, how he also, by definition, reduced private sector savings, which took money out of the economy and basically created the recession that hit by draining the economy of much needed spending. By trimming entitlements, he literally sucked money out of the economy. Now, for those of you who have watched Real Progressives for any length of time, you know that there's really only two places to get money. One is federal deficit spending, or two is banks, private banks at that. The banks that everyone hates so much. So why do you suppose someone who is supposed to be championing the advancement of not only a Green New Deal, but Medicare for All, and all these other robust programs like housing as a right? I mean, ending student lunch debt, providing food. I mean, the amount of idiocy Ro Khanna needed to deploy to put this shit out there is just overwhelming. Now, for those of you who have met Ro Khanna, you know the guy is a tall, stately man. He's got a great aura about him. He's the kind of guy that kind of gives off a presidential vibe even a little bit. But with tweets like this, with these kind of commentaries that keep the old austerity narrative alive and well, the idea that we must reduce the deficit is right-wing bullshit. The great Reichsmark, that kind of crap. It's lethal to our existence. And especially, guys, unless you don't believe, unless this climate change shit is really a hoax, and by the way, I don't believe it is, but unless it's really a hoax, why in God's name would a guy who's supposed to be leading the charge to advance a progressive agenda, why in the world would he put forward such a boneheaded, idiotic statement? It's unforgivable. Why? Because Ro actually knows the truth. He's not one of the dipshits bouncing into walls with a helmet. He actually understands that we need deficits in order to do all these great programs. He actually understands that. So why would he go back to the Clintonistas and elevate right-wing austerity measures that hurt so many single moms and hurt so many of the poor, destroyed the welfare system, and ultimately created the stage for where we are today even? The longest shitty recovery of all time. Why would Ro Khanna champion that? So, one of his constituents, and I love it, guy's got a great name, Steve. Anytime you got a Steve in there, I'm all for it. But this guy, Steve, came back and he said probably the most incredible response a constituent can say to their representative. He said, "Come on, Congressman, you're way smarter than this. You know how federal spending fuels the economy. And the things we call deficits and debt are the amount of money in our pockets. Recessions are a function of too much money being taxed out of existence." Steve from your district. Now, if you think about this, if you take just a second to think about it, the Bill Clinton balanced budgets were the ultimate attack on the poor. It was the ultimate neoliberal strike into FDR's New Deal. His disgusting, worthless neoliberal attack on our financial system by removing the last vestiges of Glass-Steagall is the most unforgivable act of them all. But what he did by reducing the deficit was put us all into unsustainable private debt. And each couple years, a new debt bubble bursts, and we go into a longer, more prolonged, shitty economy. You can say there's all these jobs, but they're gig economy jobs. They're shit jobs. The wages are flat. There's been no advancement for the regular people in 40 fucking years. In 40 years, we haven't seen an increase in wages, any meaningful increase. But you've seen the CEOs and you've seen Wall Street wages go 6 and 7 and 800%. Like skyrocketing, like straight up. While the people have flatlined. So why in God's name, when you're talking about eliminating student debt, which will blow up the deficit, and when you talk about Medicare for All, and since they're going to tax even more money out of the economy on a deflationary deal, it's going to even screw it up more. And now you're going to try and talk about the good old days when Bill Clinton left you a surplus. Surpluses don't exist. I want you all to understand, a surplus is a paper accounting identity. When the government taxes federal dollars out of the economy through taxation, it is deleting them from the economy. There is no pile of money sitting there that somehow or another Bush squandered. Every penny Bush spent was a new dollar. He just spent it on the war machine. He didn't spend it on the people. And so none of that money really made it back into the economy. They bailed out the banks under Obama. They bailed out the mortgage industry under Obama, and they let the mortgagors, the people, carry that private debt on their backs. Neoliberals are fucking evil. They put the entire weight of the bad choices of the rich and the hedge fund managers and all the speculators, put that full weight of that failure on the backs of regular people. And Ro Khanna is sitting there championing deficit reduction, championing the Clinton deficit reduction that set the stage for all the fiascos we're going through today. Folks, there is no progressive agenda without understanding how the fucking government spends money into existence, period. Folks, I'm sorry if you're a Democrat and you don't like hearing that. I'm sorry if you're a Hillary supporter and you just love her so much and you want to think about all the sound finance and pushing people to Wall Street solutions and you think that is a good Democrat. FDR wouldn't like it. That's for God blessed sure. And once you understand how the economy works, you shouldn't like it either, and your children definitely shouldn't, unless you're part of the 1% that benefits from Wall Street bullshit like this. Ro Khanna should be ashamed of himself because he knows better. Ro, you know better. There can be no excuse for this. Folks, this is the most important issue you will ever hear about. And you won't hear about it enough. You won't hear about it nearly enough. Alternative media is afraid to touch it because they don't understand economics. Save for the Convo Couch and Status Quo who have taken the time to lift this stuff up. But you got even Jimmy Dore going back to frickin' Radigan. You got people that are not dialed in and are celebrating ignorance all over the place. And Ro is appealing to that ignorant mindset that is lethal to any shot of a Green New Deal. Folks, a Green New Deal isn't just something that we want because wouldn't it be cool? Folks, if you really believe in science, you know we've got to do dramatic mobilization to address this. Are you hearing? Are you in there? Do you hear this? I mean, are you in there? This is a big, big deal. And the centrist Democrats don't get it. They don't want to get it. They refuse to get it because they're ready for brunch. They're ready for their skinny fucking lattes. They're ready for their limousine and wine and cheese and crackers. They're ready for their $2,500 a plate dinners where they get to rub elbows with who's who. They're not interested in serving the people. And Ro knows better. Ro is better than this. Why is he not behaving better than this? I hate like hell to think Ro's just another Democrat doing what centrists do, shitting on everyone but themselves. As long as their little portfolio goes up, as long as their Wall Street investments hold their value or continue to grow, they don't care who gets fucked in the process. I hope that's not who Ro Khanna is. I don't believe that's who Ro Khanna is. In fact, I have always thought very highly of Ro Khanna. Everything that I've met with, talked, seen, I've had no reason to really, really doubt him until this. This is really bad. And I hope that he doubles back and says, hey man, I fucked up. Is he going to do it? Probably not. But these kind of tweets right here, they're the kind of thing that the GOP brings out a hammer and says, how are you going to pay for all these grand programs, Ro? And then Ro's going to have to sound like an idiot backpedaling. And when you deal from a position of weakness by lying, and that's what he did here. He lied. He didn't know better. There's none of that. He knew, and he did it anyway. He fucking did it anyway, even though he knew better. I mean, literally, shook hands with, he knows this stuff is wrong, and he said it anyway. He said it anyway. And it's in these moments where all the defenders of the realm will come out there and say, stop beating up, bro. We got to get people elected. It's more important that we get people elected. Of course it's important we get people elected, but it's important we get people elected that are going to not try to reduce the goddamn deficit. This shit is not rocket science, folks. And this is why beating up the GOP for deficits is the wrong thing. You want to beat the GOP up for their spending habits. Show how they continue to prioritize the killing machine over the saving machine. You want to talk about it? Start focusing more and put a spotlight on their priorities. Because it's not the deficit being blown up that's causing the problems. In fact, it's because we tend to go below. The deficit's not spent on the people. That's what you attack. You attack priorities. You attack focus. You attack what they think is important. And you prove in spades that they're not out there fighting for the little people. But you don't sit there and use shit shots based in faulty bullshit economic illiteracy that half the public, 3/4 of the public has been stooped and duped on. And you don't keep fanning those flames when you know better. You don't do it. Because then you're doing nothing different than the right wing. You're behaving just like a jihadist. And Ro, you know better. It's time to do better. So I'm Steve Grumbine with Real Progressives. And I hope you guys will take it to Ro and tell him, stop talking bullshit about deficits. Fucking spend on the people. Let's get a Green New Deal and let's go and live forever. Fucking keep this planet habitable instead of fucking blowing it up. I'm out. Have a good day.